Hello, my name is Logan Bowman III, and I am a social justice educator and a project match presenter. In this study, I will introduce how Africana people can use our innate gifts, our minds, our bodies, our ancestral heritage, and our collective responsibilities to one another to develop a winning mindset despite what we face. In this presentation, we will seek to create Black scholars for academic and professional success from their birth to their college graduation to become pillars of excellence in their communities. We'll discuss Black love, Black finances, mental and physical health, and well-being. And lastly, we will use information gleaned to help us find pathways to reconcile, heal, and strengthen our familial community ties that the Ma'afa have ravaged in our sojourn in this diaspora. I created this particular study is because I was going to write some information based on the various health disparities that communities of color deal with. But I was inspired when I saw a presentation by some young Black and brown scholars that was put on by Morgan Chase Bank. It was called a Fellowship Initiative. And from that point on, I've decided that I would no longer read another story or create another research study that describes us from a deficit mindset. I've chosen to find out what we could do about ourselves and our tomorrow. As a social justice educator, I decided to approach this from that paradigm. And despite the Herculean obstacles that beset Black people and communities of color in many areas of inequality, there's a question, a statement, and an observation. Or the question is, what can be done that will prepare us for our tomorrows? The observation is that the socialization process here in America gives Black people the perceptions about ourselves that we can accomplish collectively and individually has been primed to operate from a deficit model. I declare here, though, by rediscovering our vision, our gifts, and our self-determination through a multifaceted, Afro-centered psychological approach, we could help to find ourselves and our place in the sun. Using a divergent thinking model, which means you have more than one way to win. It will give us a pathway where we could observe, speak to, and assess to create education plans to help Black scholars identify what they can do now to affect change in themselves, their families, and in their communities, using these three places: education, lifelong learning, the way we approach mental and physical health, being better financial stewards, and building healthy relationships. Knowledge is a principal thing. And it has to be deep in that. We got to get to wisdom so we know what we can do with what we know. This is more than just going to school. This is creating a learning environment, which means having an intimate relationship with your teachers, your administrators, even the janitorial staff on campus. We must learn to read more than our text messages and our Facebook posts. And when we understand the dynamics of basic education, well, basic arithmetic, reading, and writing will only get us part of the way of this journey. The further one goes in their academic endeavors, it will increase and create opportunities for themselves that will help them to create better life satisfaction and give them a quality of life they enjoy. Many writers suggest that the battlefield is the mind, and we would say that. But what does having a positive mindset does? It gives you a favorable expectation of good. If a person thinks, as it says, as a man or woman thinks, so are they. One of the ways I could look at that is we have to think about what we're thinking about. I can't stop a bird from flying over my head, but I could darn sure stop it from putting a nest there. In his book, The Mind-Body Code, Mario Martinez suggests that when we tap into the synergy of our thoughts, body, and ancestral heritage, we can guide ourselves into a healthier place of fulfillment and wellness. And by simply eating better or eating healthier, we can eliminate diabetes, many of those comorbid disparities we could do by simply eating healthy, removing salt and soda sometimes. Margie Anderson suggests in an article that the dollar circulates in the Asian community 28 days. In the Jewish community, it circulates up to 20 days. In a white community, 17 days. In a Latino community, 7 days. Yet in a Black community, the dollar circulates 6 hours, which means we're not taking advantage or even putting very much effort into the amount of money we have, because it's not the amount of money you have, is how you manage that money that will determine our financial success. If we could get our scholars to understand that it is better to create a savings plan for your future. You don't need that pair of Nikes when you have 17 in the closet, or a pair of red bottoms that you only wear on special occasions. It would be like embezzling and taking from your own self. We could also look at relationships. Dr. Georgia Grew, in her book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, argues that enslavement of African Americans has had a devastating effect on how we approach intimacy and having healthy social and romantic relationships. The enslaver never respected the Black family and marriage. In fact, spouses and children could be sold off to different plantations in other parts of the country or the state. The sexual exploitation of females and males and children had no limits. Forcible breeding practice and sexual assault of men, women, and children was common. It had a devastating effect on how we comport ourselves in relationships. We could fix that by seeking to build healthier levels of intimacy. Some say happy spouse, happy wife, happy life. I say happy spouse, happy house. What's love got to do with it? Everything. Healthy boundaries are a preventive measure. External forces impact and can negatively influence relationships. When outside circumstances, social injustice, inequities are allowed to penetrate and permeate a relationship, it can destabilize the structure of that relationship, and the well-being and satisfactions is at great risk. Healthy boundaries are essential to your self-care. Remember, no is a full sentence. You can stop many fights with friends by not letting them borrow money when you know they're not going to pay it back. We can stop wasting time. A healthy boundary is a gift you give yourself. It is suggested that when Black people abide and adhere to Afrocentric cultural values and beliefs, it connects them with a positive moral judgment and peer-to-adult relationships in Black scholars. In addition, Afrocentric cultural values and beliefs can be positive psychological tools in the building of resistance to depression, anxiety, and anger by encouraging healthy sense of well-being. Through a divergent thinking model guided by Afrocentric approach, the mobilization and exercising of our innate gifts, rich ancestral heritage, the power of resilience, mental, spiritual, and social reconnectedness, and healthy relationships can bring health, healing, and restoration. Thank you for your time. And that is the end of my presentation.